All right, now that we're over that stupidity and I am all set for another week, let's go over some more of the Piketon Massacre, George Wagner, the fourth trial. Okay, so we are winding down on this trial. I saw a news article pop up earlier. I haven't read it yet. I have not yawned all day, I swear. It popped up basically and it said, will the prosecution rest with a question mark? So we are getting close. Now, that doesn't count any defense witnesses, anything to that effect. I am still genuinely shocked that we have not called Charlie Reader. And I mean, I realize he's in prison, but he was instrumental to this. So I'm shocked that Charlie Reader hasn't had to come forward and testify, which, if you don't know who that is, that was the Pike County Sheriff at the time who is in prison for, like, theft in office. All right, so Angela testified for 2 days last week. She was not the witness immediately after Jake, but she was right after Jake. She was the day after Jake. They started out with Matt Whitigan, who is the firearms expert for the state. Basically, they went over some more analysis of murder weapons, how they found murder weapons that were in they had to be chiseled out of blocks of concrete that were in buckets, and they were sunk in a pond. He testified to finding pieces of the slide of a cut up 40 caliber Glock pistol in these buckets with concrete sunk in the bottom of the well. He said that they were taken to perform test fires, which is, to see if the bullets are marked the same from this gun. And then after microscopically comparing these to the bullets that were found at Chris Sr.'s crime scene, which is also where Gary Roden was, they were a match, and that the Glock pistol in the concrete bucket did fire both. It was also the same gun that fired the single shot that killed Kenneth Roden, because the casing was found in Kenneth's bed, and it matched the casings from the test fires and the casing found at the first scene. Matt White testified that while chiseling these buckets apart, he said that he did find other weapons and shell casings and ammunition inside the buckets as well. He did say that he was not able to test fire the SKS rifle that the prosecutors are saying that George carried. And he did show a picture of the cut-up gun. He did find pieces of the SKS rifle, but was unable to test fire it because the damage done to the gun was too bad. Head over to part 2. Angela Wagner's testimony. I have no idea what day this is, part 2. Also, the last time I wore this sweatshirt in a video, I had a couple questions about it. It says much love from Diana. I assume that is Princess Diana's signature. Honestly, didn't look into it that much. It is called the Love Diana shirt. It is from the brand Girl Tribe Co. I found them on TikTok. I will tag them in the description. They have a lot of really cute shirts. They have a Dolly one that I'm waiting to come back in stock because it is super cute. And I really, really, really love their sweatshirts. Not sponsored. They don't know I exist. I wish they did. Anyway, so we are on day 2. Matt White, the guy with the epic beard. If you've been watching this, he's testified before. He'll probably testify again. So he also said that he found a fuel filter that was dented in places and had a hole in the end. This is Matt White holding up the fuel filter that was used as a homemade silencer. Like you can read right there. Prosecutors have shown that George's credit card bought these filters. And then the prosecution says that they can't prove it because George and the family shared cards. We've been over that. He also noticed that there was some evidence that these guns had been adapted to do this with like a threaded end for like a pipe or something. All right, so that was kind of the end of his. Next was Angela Wagner, Angie herself. Here's her bitch ass walking into court. I see that they gave her an undershirt. She didn't have to use the sleeve arm things like her son did. Naturally, in the same vein as all these other murderers that are too ashamed of what they did, she did not opt into any sort of video or audio recording. So we're going to go off the summaries from WCPO. They did have Courtney Francisco in the courtroom, and she did a good job of tweeting on her breaks to update us on things. This was the first time that Angela has been able to look at George in almost 4 years, or maybe even over 4 years now. Yeah. So they were arrested in 2018. I think, I don't think it's been 4 years yet. I think it was in like November, December. Almost immediately on the stand, Angela went ahead and admitted that she was guilty of helping plan these murders and helping her family prepare for the murders. They started at the beginning. The prosecutors asked Angela to describe the childhood of Jake and George. She said that Billy, their father, had taught them to steal very early, that they would, and he taught them how to do insurance fraud, like destroying property, whether it be a house or a truck, which they have also done. She said they burned down homes, trucks, etc. to collect insurance money. So this was not new. Head to part 3. Angela Wagner, day 1 of testimony, part 3. Angela also admitted that her half-brother Chris Newcomb had helped Jake crash George's truck. She basically said that something was wrong with the engine to where it was going to be too expensive to repair. So, of course, they decided, the only logical thing to do here is to crash it. And honestly, not judging, because I know people who've done that. I didn't do it, but I thought about it once. Anyway, so he was in the truck, and apparently he had to be cut out with the jaws of life, and he was like pretty seriously injured and like nearly died. So obviously I don't think Chris knew anything about the plan. So his sister forgot to inform him of that. Angela pretty well, what's the word I'm looking for? Confirmed Jake's testimony. They shared finances. She used her son's credit card. She said she always asked them first. That they all had entangled bank accounts and that sort of thing. And then she was given a chance to describe her relationship with Tabitha, and then I got fucking pissed. Angela said that Tabitha was the one who made the decision to stop associating with her own family, not because George and Angela told her to, because of the abuse that she had suffered as a child, which she did also testify was true, but didn't say that she had decided this. I believe she said that George and Angela told her not to speak to her family anymore because of this abuse and the Wagners' absolute obsession with childhood SA. The day that Tabby left, Angela said that Tabitha had, quote, had an episode. She was screaming, yelling, hitting the walls. Yeah, probably because y'all are fucking psychos, but whatever. Of course, in defense of one of her babies, she said that George had tried to calm Tabitha down, that everything was fine, but Tabitha was demanding that she be handed Bullvine, who was a baby at the time. Angela said she refused to do it unless Tabitha calmed down. They were all trying to calm her down, but she was just insane, and then Angela told the jury that she'd finally screamed, quote, "Just give me a gun. I'm fed up with this." Which honestly, I don't doubt that she said. She probably did, but she probably fucking meant it too. So Tabitha had testified that at that point is when she ran and left on a bicycle because she was afraid. Actually, she hid under the truck and then left on a bicycle after dark. But she was afraid that whatever gun she was going to retrieve would then be used to kill her. Angela claimed that she was just trying to scare Tabitha to calm down and that wasn't actually going to follow through with it. She, I believe, said that she went in the house and forgot about it, which we all know is complete bullshit. In the end, Tabby left and her and George got a divorce, and George got full custody of their son because they tricked Tabitha into giving up custody of her son. Sure, Angela was orchestrating that. Head over to part 4. Angela Wagner, day 1 of testimony, part 4. So she testified that her precious baby boys would never, ever, ever be having sex with anybody other than to make babies, but that was clearly incorrect because Jake was 17 screwing a 13-year-old. Correction. That's not screwing, that's raping. Because you can't consent to relationships when you're fucking 13 years old. Anyway, they dated for a while, and eventually Jake came to his mother and asked her to buy a pregnancy test. Angela said she was, of course, upset, but she did buy the test. Hannah took the test. It was positive, and Hannah was afraid to tell Dana, her mother, so she took Angela to the clinic with her to have the pregnancy confirmed, and Dana was understandably very angry about that because her daughter did not come to her. Sophia wasn't even born before there were concerns about the child being assaulted by family members of the rodents. Now, I want to make super, super clear. This was never based on anything other than Hannah had something happen to her and had confided that in Jake, just like everyone else. And then they use it against you because that's what the Wagners do, apparently. And it was based on nothing other than that and their absolute obsession with something happening to these children in a abuse fashion. I think this had also happened to Angela when she was younger. And then I believe she said in her interview at the border that she was sexually assaulted when she was in the Air Force. So at one point, Sophia was apparently having some redness in some sensitive areas, and Angela thought that this was signs of abuse on behalf of the rodents. And then she told the rest of the family they needed to start looking for warning signs on Sophia anytime that she had been to the rodents. Naturally, none of this has ever been proven to be true or even remotely true. And I believe they said they called her Suds. Like, her nickname was Suds because she loved bubble baths so much. Now, I don't know if you're a girl, if you've been a girl, if you have a daughter, what causes redness in that area in a young child? Yeast infections. And what causes a yeast infection in a child that young? Bubble baths. Not saying that all bubble baths do that, but I know several young girls that their parents, being my friends, struggled with this when their daughters were little because they love bubble baths, but their skin and like private parts were just too sensitive for them. My God, I hate this video. I feel like pond scum talking about this. Blech. Head over to part 5. Genuinely feel like I need to take a shower after the last one. I hate even fucking talking about that sort of shit, but I mean, the fact is that a lot of people mistake signs like that for things that are worse than they are, or in the other way around, they would write off signs thinking that it is something lesser than it is. So we all just need to stop being weird about bodies and what they can and can't do and know what our signs are. Anyway, so Angela basically said that once they thought that Suds was being assaulted by the rodents, they decided that they were going to keep an eye on this and do something about it. And she said that we didn't believe in the justice system and we didn't believe in children's services. After that, Billy had an absolute freak out. Sorry, there's a hair on my eyelash. Billy freaked out because one time he was around Frankie and saw Frankie being overly affectionate with Sophia because he kissed her on the mouth. Now, I don't know if you have a whole lot of experience with 2-year-olds, but 2-year-olds kiss on the mouth. Like, literally all of them do. My son is 7 and still wants to kiss me on the mouth. And, you know, kids are just like that. Kids just think kisses are kisses. They don't understand what the difference is. And most children are being kissed in an affectionate way from their family member, and it is nothing to be literally adding to the list of reasons to slaughter a family. Angela originally said that she had the idea to turn in Chris to the authorities for his marijuana growing. That way it would give Jake more of leverage to go after sole custody of Sophia. But Billy shot that down and said absolutely not, that was not an option, mainly because I assume Billy was involved. And if Chris went down, Billy would go down as well. Angela testified that starting in January of 2016, her and her husband Billy began forming a plan, telling the Wagner family that the rodents had to be murdered. And it started out with just Hannah, and then it turned into Hannah, Chris, and Kenneth, and then expanded to be Frankie, and then anyone else was just collateral damage. Her and Billy came up with the idea of basically slaughtering the family before going to Jake and George. They originally, as Jake testified, he originally said absolutely not, but then ultimately came around to it. And their testimony says that they basically went along with what they were told. Head over to part 6. Angela Wagner testimony, part 5. This will finish up day 1 and start into day 2. So after Angela and Billy came up with this idea of annihilating the rodents, she said they took the idea to Jake and George and that she talked to both of them personally about it. And she said, quote, I was asking, are you sure? Nobody wanted to do it, but they had to keep Sophia safe. Like, fuck Bullvine, I guess. Like, are you serious? Are you serious? Are you serious? Then she says after the murder, she was shocked when she saw the reports of 8 people dead on the news, which is bullshit because she knew what they were leaving to do. Now, she testifies that she didn't, but Jake testified that she did. She said, quote, I honestly did not think my husband would go through with it. That was the end of day 1, so we're going to start on day 2 of her testimony now. And we're back into the cleanliness of Sophia and her areas. I'm not getting into that. And I'm also not going to repeat on TikTok what Sophia said about the bubble gum. If you want, you can go to WCPO, and the title of this article is Pike County Murder Trial Cross-Examination of Angela Wagner Continues. Angela said this was the basis for thinking that Hannah Mae's family was abusing Sophia, but no. She was asked why no member of the Wagner family took her to the doctor to be examined, because whether you trust the cops or children's services, this child did go to the doctor, and their little backwoods medicine ain't going to fix that. So, but she never took her, and Angela said, I don't know why I didn't. Well, you clearly weren't that fucking concerned then, were you? This is Richard Nash doing the questioning, by the way, and he fucking sucks when he talks to, like, the ex-wives and stuff, but I don't care. He can fucking suck and talk to Angela like this because she can suck a big old bag of them because she sucks. She is a fucking murderer. And realistically, this bitch getting a plea deal for 30 years honestly kind of pisses me off because I 1000% believe she was the mastermind behind this. This was her idea, and she should be going for life as well as the rest of her family. Honestly, I think they should all get the death penalty because this has so many aggravators and such a large planning going into it that this isn't a matter of, somebody who there is questionable doubt on whether they even did it. There is no questionable anything on this. And I think had Jake not pled, the state would have had more than enough evidence to convict this family on its own. So head over to part 7, I think, and we'll wrap up Angela. Angela Wagner testimony, day 2, cross-examination by Richard Nash, part 6, probably the last part, but I say that all the time and it ends up being 9, so let's see. Richard Nash did, of course, point out to Angela that they didn't murder Tabby or her family, that they did, in fact, trust the justice system enough to go that avenue to get custody of Bullvine. Why didn't they do it again? He also questioned Angela about the dynamics in the family, and Angela did say that their household was full of a lot of yelling, a lot of screaming, and loud disagreements. She said that Billy was abusive and on more than one occasion choked George. I also heard somewhere that Billy and George had actually fist fought before, which I hope that happened. And I hope that Billy got punched right in his meth mouth. Billy apparently also threatened to force Angela to accompany him during the murder spree, according to Angela. She basically said Billy was the mastermind, which sounds like something a true mastermind would say, because this man didn't know where he was. So she said Billy doled out instructions on what to do leading up to the homicide, including telling her to send text from Jake and George's phones to make it look like they were home. Richard Nash accused her of only sending alibi messages for Jake, not George. But she said that wasn't true, that she's pretty sure she did both phones. The night that her sons and husband went out to murder the rodents, Nash pointed out that Angela had never noticed the sound of a pickup truck leaving their property and can't testify to who fired shots and who did not, or the weapons used. He was using this as a segue to the history of Angela being dishonest. And on Wednesday, the day before this, she had actually testified that she lied to law enforcement, saying that Tabby had drugs in her car in order to sway the custody battle between her and George. Tabby also testified to that. Nash also pointed out that Angela lied and dragged her own mother into this. He referenced her testimony from the day before when she said she had taken her plea deal in the hopes it would provide her an avenue to get to see her grandchildren again one day, suggesting she would lie during George's trial to be able to accomplish this goal. Nash said this showed interest, and she showed interest in protecting herself and her own interest and had no regard for her mother or her sons. And I mean, honestly, the fact that their mother was willing to flip and testify against all of them, he's correct. This bitch don't care about nobody but her damn self. And that's why her entire family is in the situation that they're in now. Head over to part 7. Angela Wagner, cross-examination, second day of testimony, part 7. We're getting there. So in case you're not familiar, Angela took a plea deal in 2021 for, it's like 30 years plus like 8 or something like that. Maybe not even that. So Nash said, would you agree with me that 4 years for every life you took was a great deal? And she said, that's not how I understand it. Angela said that she is more than sorry, but she knows that that's not enough. No, bitch, it's not. She said that everything came down to Sophia, that Sophia was just a baby and her family, and she felt she had to kill to protect her. She said that the murders were not, in fact, about custody, but were about protecting Sophia. And that she believed, she and the other Wagners believed Hannah Mae wouldn't do anything to prevent Sophia from being abused, because at one point she told Jake that if Sophia was abused, then they would just have to deal with that. Which, of course, Jake interpreted as, I'm going to let her be abused, which is absolutely not what she meant. What she meant was what any decent parent would say, in that, in the off event that this happens to my child, because this happens to a lot of children, we will deal with this. We will not turn a blind eye to it, and we will help her through this. Hannah Mae was the only target for the killings, but they felt that they had to kill the rest of the family to prevent any retaliation from the rodents. She testified that George did help plan the murders and covering it up afterwards, but she said to this day she does not know who shot who when it came to the night of the murders in 2016. That was pretty much the end of Angela, and I find it extremely extremely fucking comical that this bitch thinks that when she gets out of prison at like 80 years old, because she's like 52 or something like that, that when she gets out of prison at 82 years old, these babies that are going to be my age are going to want to have anything to do with this bitch. Bitch, you killed my mother and my entire family. Why would I have anything to do with you? I just hope that I am still around and able to find Sophia on the internet when she becomes an adult to hear her tell what this was like growing up with this. And this poor child, I know she is somewhere where she's happy and she's safe, but I genuinely hope that this poor child is in therapy and continues to be in therapy as she gets older, because the trauma of knowing you are the reasoning that they gave is too much. Head to the next part. We'll finish up. All right, last little bit of testimony from that day. It's not much. They did, after Angela was done, the prosecution called Katie Wagner to the stand. This is Billy's niece, the one that he took the truck to, the murder truck. Katie is George and Jake's cousin. Several other witnesses and her have testified that Billy gifted Katie the pickup truck that was used in the murders. Hold on. Literally don't ever have a child and dog at the same time. It's a nightmare. Katie testified that on the morning of April 22nd, 2016, that Billy showed up before sunrise in Athens County, Ohio, home of Joe Burrow, and told her that he had a surprise for her. It was the murder truck. But she said that she'd told her uncle previously to be on the lookout for a truck for her because she wanted one. And when it showed up that morning, he told her he'd gotten the black pickup truck from her great uncle Todd. She transferred the title into her name later that day, and eventually when the BCI agents tracked it down, they seized it, but it was no longer in working condition by that time. Katie did also testify that Jake and George tried calling her family from jail, but no one would accept the calls. So I'm going to go ahead and include the next day after this, because this was Friday, because we like straight up didn't have court, because there were some discrepancies over wiretaps, over a reenactment of Jake and George in the bed of the truck that had been reconstructed, the false cover that they had made, and there were transcripts that were like 200 pages long, and the prosecutors hadn't given the defense enough time to read it all. So basically, they had court, but nothing got done. It was postponed to Monday, which was yesterday. And that was pretty much it. I did not watch yesterday. I still need to catch up. So we are done for now. Today was also court. And they won't have court on Friday, I don't think, because it is Veterans Day and it is a federal holiday. So we are pretty well caught up with the exception of the last 2 days. I don't think there's been any major testimony the last 2 days, but don't hold me to that because I didn't watch it. But I've not seen or heard anything in the groups or on the news or anything like that that seems to be any like brand new information. So that is all for now. Y'all let me know how we're doing, what you think, what you want to see, and share these videos. And if they don't have TikTok, I have YouTube now. So you can go check out my YouTube. I re-upload all these. I'll see y'all tomorrow.